Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you for your patience, but we are ready now to start our first capacity building webinar of the Abracadabra project. Indeed, it's a very magic project, and I hope that today you will have the opportunity to learn a little bit more about what we are doing, what we are working on. Abracadabra stands for Assisted Buildings Addition to Retrofit, Adopt, Cure, and Develop the Actual Building up to zero energy, and activating a market for deep renovation. So a lot of discussion today will focus on how to make the most out of the renovation of our buildings, and how to make sure that these renovations are not only efficient in terms of energy, but also in terms of cost benefits. So not time to explain what the project is about, as we will have our first speaker, Professor Annarita Ferrante, the coordinator of our project, that will give you a full overview of the activities and of our standing and our ideas behind the activities that we carry out. But before we start, I would like to take you through quickly our program, the agenda of today. So first of all, my name is Giorgia Rambelli. I work for ICLE European Secretariat, and it's my pleasure today to be the host and to support you not only through moderating the session, but also with any technical question that you might have concerning the platform. Just to go very quickly through that, you will see that beside your name, you will find a series of icons, including a little hand icon. Please feel free to raise that at any time. I will see that, and I will be able to give you the floor. Should you not be able to use a microphone to read out loud your question, I can do that for you. So please feel free just to chat me using the chat function. Also welcome to use the feedback function that are available in this tool. If you see also beside your name, you have the opportunity to flag whether the presenter is going too fast, whether the presentation is too slow, if you agree, if you strongly disagree, or even if we are just making you laugh. So please feel free to interact with us as much as possible and let us know your thoughts through these different channels. The first part of our webinar will mostly be about Abracadabra. We have a thorough explanation of our project, what are our activities, and what are our ideas behind what we are doing. The second section will mostly revolve around one question: how can AdoRes finance deep renovation to nearly zero energy? And we look into that in a series of different aspects, starting from what are the challenges and opportunities of AdoRes for a specific sector, the cooperative and social and public housing sector, with Social Edwards, that will give us a presentation on that, followed by two of the toolkits that the Abracadabra project has been developing in the past month and is now testing and rolling out in the case studies across Europe. We will present on our technical tools by Edgars Augustins from Latvia, and we will have finally a presentation on our brand new financial tools. Will be presented by Dimitra Papadaki from the National Kapodistan University of Athens. And we will finally end up with a Q&A session, so you will have the opportunity to take the floor, raise your points, share with us your idea, and maybe pitch some of your case studies. And finally, we will have our conclusion to pop up right on time by 12 p.m. today. So I think without any further hesitation, I would like to give the floor to Professor Ferrante. Pass the ball. I'm muting you. Annarita, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. The floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Giorgia. Good morning, everyone. I would like to present briefly the Abracadabra project, and the new mantra, which is this magic deep renovation through buildings are done up to zero energy and with zero cost. That sounds a little bit magic, especially if we had with zero urban sprawl. I will go through a very brief presentation why a project on deep renovation of existing buildings. We know that the most challenging aspect in energy efficiency involve existing building, and the challenge is given by the fact that the energy cost of energy renovation of deep renovation in existing buildings is very, very high, and most of all, the payback times of the investments in energy retrofit are very high, because you have to consider that for a deep renovation, and especially for a deep renovation who must tend to nearly zero energy building, the payback time varies between 7 to 6, but up to 30, 35 and 40 years. So this is the very challenge motivation we moved from to conceive and to propose the Abracadabra project. So the fact that high investments are required upfront and there are these long payback times with a high degree of risk are also combined by a general invisibility of energy retrofit, the energy benefit from the users. So the idea was to come to a project that could add additional motivation, additional tools to be developed at social, legislative and market level to balance this problem of large payback times of the energy efficiency measures aimed at achieving nearly zero energy building in existing buildings. So we try to respond to this problem, considering that the residential building in Europe have a very low rate of energy retrofit, considering that the 90% of the buildings that we see today will be still standing and will be occupied by 2050. Then this is the renovation rate of the actual buildings up to now in Europe, so it's 1.4%. In a market that only Italy, for example, involves more than 11 million buildings. So we know that there will not be an increase also in the new buildings. So speaking about nearly zero energy in new buildings, it's a very low incidence as a whole in the real existing building stock in Europe. So we are also trying to address at the urban scale the problem of the zero urban sprawl I have mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, because we can imagine, we can visualize how the Abracadabra strategy could also imply a densification within a consolidated and existing one environment, rather than new expansion outside the city border. So it could even represent, and that's very important for the regulatory aspect, a solution, an alternative solution for the construction of new buildings. So trying to tend to zero also the expansion of new cities, as also Europe is going to set for the following decades. So the idea is was already mentioned and expressed by Georgia at the beginning, was to into assistant buildings, an addition of this existing assistant building to retrofit, adopt, queue, and develop the actual buildings up to zero energy, creating a market for deep renovation. And we have the logo and the acronym of this project. Substantially, the Abracadabra is based on the possibility of achieving nearly zero energy through an attractive relation strategy based on, let's say, non-energy related factors. So, based on a substantial increase of the real estate value provided by what we call the AdoRes, so the assistant building addition and renewable energy sources. They are the tools for us to create this upgrading synergy between old and new, between the old and existing building and the new one. And okay, that's why we also say that ABRA can result in a legislative earthquake that could accelerate the revolution towards the nearly zero energy in existing building. And do so, we have to involve the main stakeholders and prove them the potential of the innovative building renovation through this kind of strategy. So in this slide, you can see what the scheme we are working on. The concept of abracadabra is given. We have implement in our course, so rest, coating, and renewal aimed at achieving nearly zero energy building. This could provide energy efficiency and saving, which is we will see also in our financial tools. It's a reduced part, but we also have an economic profit and added value, which could be the part that gives back the profit of investment to market actors. Well, as a whole, the idea of achieving nearly zero energy building and densification as well in the urban context may produce an environmental and social benefit, who is mainly addressing the stakeholder category of the policymakers. Here we can see some first simulation that we already performed for some case studies for the energy retrofit through AdoRes, what we call the AdoRes. And with the difference for a normal retrofit, let's say a standard retrofit without add-ons or AdoRes, what we called, the cash flow of this situation, the cash flow of the same situation with the public and incentives. And then we have the possibility of a sudden return of the investment given by the construction of new volumetric addition, our AdoRes in building, could provide a return in terms of the investment very soon, even if we consider the risk of the cash flow without incentives. So the blue line. So we learned many new things. We saw that in other cases, this strategy of additional volumes have been used to counterbalance the energy retrofitting cost in energy renovation of the existing. So the idea is to categorize, harmonize, and trying to develop this kind of strategy as a strategy who will work at the European level and for the different contexts. I would like now to leave the floor to Elena Catani that will explain us this first attempt of categorization of these AdoRes and the first implementation that we did on this kind of strategy on different case studies that we are running currently. So Catani that will speak about these new case studies.
Everyone, you can see in this slide is the first categorization we made on the AdoRes. So what we defined volumetric addition on existing buildings. The addition could be ground addition when buildings are on pilotis, so they have the ground floor that you see. They could be top addition as a rooftop addition and extra floors on the roof. Side addition when the side facade is blind and facade addition as main facade addition. Or the fifth scenario that we foresee, they can become entire new buildings called assistant buildings that are in synergy with the old building and create this connection between the old and the new. The type of target groups and stakeholders that we involve in our project, as Professor Ferrari mentioned, The aim of the project is to have a great participation from all the stakeholders to create the let's say, from a market and legislative perspective to push forward what is technically already possible. We want to get involved condominiums and private properties, and for this involvement we are organizing national meetings and international workshops, which can follow the results through minutes and all the reporting in our website. Technical and construction companies as the technical parties that are in charge of the realization of the buildings, and also public and territorial bodies, current that are the ones that define the current regulatory environment, both from energy plans and from urban plans. So and we are trying to set down tables to discuss the possibility of including the Abracadabra strategy directly in the available instruments, because we've seen that financial subsidies so far for the past 5 years have supported the initiatives only partly. The result is this 1.4 renovation rate per year, and it's not enough to create the revolution and the transformation of the existing build stock to the extent that Europe needs. So that the real change at the public administration and legislative level could only happen through massive changes also in the law and in the public scheme, and this not only at local but also regional and European level. This is the overall graphic that shows all the stakeholders and all the different parties, the research building sector embodies all of them. Then we have the financial, the public bodies, and the ESCO, which are investors and could also be bank or credit institution. And then on to the scale of private owners, landlords, construction company, and architects or planners that can use this strategy also to give a new shape to the peripheries and these buildings that need renovation, not only from an energy point of view, but also from, let's call it, an architectural point of view. So all that we are bringing us, and the final objective and aim of our project is to create a community. We called it Abra Community, that wants to gather all these players and stakeholders, research institute, professional companies, and created this ground, let's say, to push forward this revolution, both from a market point of view and a legislative point of view. The invitation for all of you is to join our community and go on our website so that you can also benefit from the results of our project. I'd like to show you a case study. These are the case studies that we now have on board: Romania, Greece, Bulgaria, Latvia, Spain, Norway, Netherlands, and again, Italy, several case studies. We will have to enlarge the case study group to another 40 new case studies. So your institution, or you know someone, or you are aware of construction building works that might be interested in testing out the feasibility of Abracadabra strategy, please contact us. We would be happy to see if your building is feasible to become one of our case studies. That is for now, and you can see we will test the feasibility on a total of almost 2,000 dwelling units for about 200,000 square meters, and the aim is to generate a reduction of over 21 million kilowatt-hours per year. So there is a benefit to not only in real estate terms and in empowering the possible renovation of existing building stock, but also in, of course, reducing the energy consumption of existing building stock. Here we can see the different scenario that I mentioned at the beginning: ground, top, side, facade, and a system building, and which one are feasible for each of the case studies that are now Abracadabra case studies. Of course, gray boxes are the ones where it's not possible. We do not infer that all the scenarios are possible in all our case studies, but we wanted to analyze in which cases, in which condition, and under which circumstances one or another scenario would be feasible, and which ones are the most favorable or viable for stakeholders. In Del, this is the Italian case studies of Corticella. It's a big neighborhood that works a bit like a microcosmos, so it's all connected. It also has a district heating system. So I did the buildings according to the type, G1, G1.2, 1.3, and so on. And each building typology has a code. We then, for each of these, calculated the possible cost of a standard deep renovation for each of the scenario, and the cost of eventually carrying out the AdoRes strategy on top, aside, facade, or system building. What here now, it's the type G, one building typology. It's a line building, a block, and we have the cost per euro per square meter for each of the scenario and for standard deep renovation. Consider the possible architectural outcome. So I wanted to investigate the how much add-ons could be built. Of course, resell. So the different amount of square meter and the livable surface that could be created, sell, and bring back the revenue that could partly or sometimes totally repay the cost of investment that is needed for renovating the existing building. So the first building is the G2, I mentioned the line. The second is a tower, so totally different topology, different possibilities, different amount of square meters, and sometimes one scenario is favorable, of course, for one topology and not favorable for another. The third is still a line, but slightly different. And these are other building typologies, as you can see. They also differ for different construction type and of course, dwelling sizes and typology. So sometimes the facade creates extra space, the enlargement of one room, or can close the existing balcony, or allowing the transformation from a balcony to a serra, and so on. What I want to point out is that there is an increase in square meter in the real estate surface, but sometimes some scenario generates an increase of quality of the building. So we're not only talking about energy benefits or real estate and money benefits, resulting in, of course, a reduction of the payback, but there's also quality benefits that sometimes cannot be accounted and calculated in terms of money, but does something in the overall renovation of the existing building. This graphic shows the different square meters. On the left, you see for each of the types of the buildings that we studied, we found out which one are the most optimal combination scenario of add-ons in terms of quality square meter, what I was just explaining before, and the renovated square meter, so the addition. Sometimes it's most favorable to create a facade, sometimes it's most favorable to create an on top or a ground addition. Consider quality. Whereas this we see the payback time, and this is the payback time of standard deep renovation. We said, for example, for the G14, we have a payback time of over 50 years. So this is really not something that an investor would look at and would be interested in doing. When we combine the standard deep renovation with the AdoRes, we have a totally different result, because we see that the framework looks at less than 1 year payback time. So the G14, for example, with a simple on-top renovation has a payback time of less than 1 year, because creating this additional surface creates and generates that pay back the renovation that otherwise would never be paid back by only the energetic reduction. And even a lower payback created by the possibility of combining the scenario that we showed. So G14, for example, has top, aside, and facade. One would like to ask then, why would I spend more, have a higher payback time, for example, 1.5 years, when by just doing an on top, I have 1 year? Exactly what we were talking about. There's not only the money and there's not only the economic aspect, there's also the quality. So by increasing the facade, for example, and offering the existing inhabitants the ability of improve their houses, we create the consensus. So we also the approval of the existing building, which is, as many that work in this know, the main barrier to gain the okay, green light from the existing building and to proceed with the works. So this strategy that we want to present has benefits, as we saw, from an energy point of view and also from economic point of view, but also when combined and work with architects and the existing building and involving the actual inhabitants, can also help the procedure and the bureaucracy to push forward and actually make it real and happening. Just a whole good scale, so we can see that the total cost to renovate the entire compound is over 84 million. The energy savings in the overall is 123 million, and the time is less than 1 year. So if we enlarge the scale we're looking at, and not only look at the building, but look at the whole neighborhood and compound in a smart city net perspective, we can have also high benefits, because most of the time what can be done on one building cannot be done on another building, and they can compensate and create the net and synergies between additional buildings and existing one renovation. So enlarging the scale is actually what we're looking at in the next step of the project. And to down, just to give you some vision of how it could look and how these buildings could change. There's some work from the students of Bologna that tried to see and play around with the additions, with the possible structures, and with the enclosure. And of course, this opens up to many material possibilities, many solutions, and also colors and transformation of the existing building, giving a new look also to the peripheries. So going, as already said, beyond the only energy and economic point of view, but also giving a new architectural feel. Go down with some open questions so that eventually we can have a discussion, or you can contact us and give us your feedback, because we're now trying to investigate what are the questions from the public bodies, how can we make it real from a legislative point of view, from the personal point of view, so what's the technical aspects connected to it, and the financial institution. I would like to remember that Abracadabra will release policy recommendations for all these aspects, and working on continuous revision of these policy recommendations to give the end of the project a full review of the potential of this strategy. So from policy recommendation at legislative level, finding the social measures and the environmental measure that could counterbalance this increase that we are proposing, because bottom line we are proposing an increase and densification of the urban load on the neighborhood. So what can happen at legislative level, and what can the public administration offer in exchange of having this increased additional volume on the existing residential compounds. From an energy point of view, we are looking at what are the possibility of integrating the AdoRes with the energy saving, the RES also, so the financial schemes, and also what are the social factors, so the possibility of customization of these additions, together with the seismic and static potential improvement on the structure of the existing building. Last, I think, it's the incentive scheme for AdoRes. What are the financial models in terms of sustainable bankable solutions and the sustainable schemes? What are the options for the assistant building, and how can we increase the confidence of the stakeholders, so where the risk of attention, and we really hope you will join our community, contact us, and participate for an active change in the building innovation sector. Thank you.
Looking for your questions.
Thank you, Narita, and thank you very much, Elena, for the great introduction, and also for reminding us that, of course, the added value of this project is not only in terms of payback time, in terms of efficiency, energy efficiency of the building, but also in terms of the impact and added value that we can bring in aesthetic terms as well as in environmental terms. So I think you really gave a good picture of this overall approach that Abracadabra is really trying to bring forward. Before I leave the floor to our first speaker for the next session, Sorsha, I would like to see whether anyone in the audience has any questions. As I mentioned, feel free to raise your hand through clicking on the icon beside your name. As you can just type a question, and I'm happy to read it out loud from your chat. That, Elena, you mentioned that we have, of course, several case studies, and also Anarita did. Can you give us maybe an overview of the different typology of case study? And if, for example, do we think that this is an approach that could also work for industrial buildings?
Yes, we do have mainly residential buildings. But indeed, we also have one hotel for the case study from Spain, and yes, it could be used as a counterbalancing measure for sure, also for other kind of buildings, especially regarding the seismic retrofit that could be connected with the facade addition. This is part of another project, but it is indeed something that is part of, let's say, the non-energy related benefit concerning this kind of high transformations in buildings. And the Abracadabra is mainly addressing the sector of residential buildings, and especially the buildings that were built from the 60s onwards. So recent, let's say, building stock, which indeed a building stock representing the large majority of the existing stock in Europe. We speak about the 60–70% of existing residential buildings that have been built after the 60s. We know that Europe is not very much a whole continent as we used to call it, but it's also a continent that has been built, especially in its peripheries, very lately.
Thank you very much. We actually have a question from the audience. I will pronounce your name in a horrible way. I'm really sorry about that. Evan de Mortel is asking to us, do you have any experience with neighborhoods with family houses, for example, terrace houses? I think only apartment buildings are in the presentation at the moment.
Yeah, we are investigating the possibility of testing in the next international workshop in Barcelona, or the one after, that is mainly on a private owners, also semi-detached and private houses. Of course, the market is higher, and it can be extended also to, as you were mentioning, industrial buildings, or also commercial buildings, or educational buildings, and so on and so forth. But now we started with the residential building. It is important to enlarge to other property owners schemes and possibilities, also because the feasibility is increased when there's only one property, and it's higher to get the authorization to proceed. And it's definitely in the framework of the building of the project to include in the additional case study also private owners. So far, we haven't, but it's going to happen.
Much. I hope that was clear. I think we have one more question. Just one moment. Okay. Edith Stanzo asked us, what are the techniques used? Only renewable energy sources?
In terms of construction technology?
Assume so. Maybe Edilta, you can I can unmute you if you like. Now? Edilta, can you hear us?
Yes, construction technologies and this expansions. I mean, it's construction technologies and energy technologies.
Thank you, Edilta.
So normally we will release, and maybe you can already find it on our website through the technical toolkit register. and you join the community, you go to the technical toolkit. There you can download our technical toolkit. It's divided into 3 parts. One is the simplified energy model, with the cost estimation, and another one is a catalog of technological solutions where we present, at this stage, is a draft. We're working on it and will be finalized by the end of the project, all the construction technologies and typologies that could be used. For now, we believe that the best solutions are dry solutions, so prefab wooden panels, or we investigated also the possibility of having bricks, because some of the case studies are in Greece, for example, and we believe that technologies with prefabricated Islam load-bearing or non-load-bearing wooden panels would not suit southern countries as much as, for example, the Netherlands or Latvian case studies. So we have prefab wood and
plug-and-play solutions that are dry assembled one with the wood. Yeah.
Yeah, the plant system are normally included inside the structure. So, for example, if we have balloon frame wooden structure inside, there's already the possibility of having new plants that will work as plug and play, that we connected with the existing structure. Sometimes when an additional structure is not needed, this addition will work as an extension of the existing structure for those countries where the seismic regulation allows it. For other countries like Italy or Greece, we are foreseen to have an additional structure, sometimes in steel, sometimes in wood, that could then work as a support for the The structure is then in our catalog so far investigated and studied to be either in steel elements or wooden elements. The question I'll be happy to answer again, Zilda.
Yeah, much. I will mute you again, Zilda, just to check if everything is clear. Everything. You have questions? No. Okay. Thank you very much. If there is no other question, maybe we can move on then to the next presenter, and a round of virtual applauses to Anna-Rita and Elena for the great presentation. Thank you very much. Of course, we will have more opportunities to exchange later on. There will be another Q&A session, so feel free to on your questions, and I will be more than happy to give you the floor later on. So, Sosha, I'm literally passing the ball to you now. You should be able to take control of the presentation. And I'll you. Okay. Perfect. Okay, the floor is yours. Thank you very much, Sosha.
So, very much to Elena and Anna-Rita. So, Housing Europe is a part of the ABRA project and the ABRA community. So, I'm going to give you today a perspective of this potential in our sector, which is the social, cooperative, and public housing sector. So, organizations we gather and represent here in Brussels, there are a total of 4,500 public voluntary housing organizations, 28,000 local cooperative housing organizations. That amounts to approximately 45 members in 24 countries and about 26 million dwellings, and 1% of the existing dwellings in the EU. So it's important in mind. So we are non-for-profit and public cooperative housing providers. Have a vision of a Europe which provides access to decent and affordable housing for all in communities which are socially, economically, and environmentally sustainable. So obviously the air energy transition is a key part of this vision, and we have seen that the Abracadabra proposal can indeed be an important part of this puzzle which we are working to complete. So you can see an overview of what organizations are involved in each member state. You can also see, depending on the lightness of the color and the darkness of the color, what proportion of the houses we actually represent. So where you have a darker shade, there's a higher proportion than social, cooperative, and public housing. Where there is a lighter shade, there is less. So just a quick picture of the sector. So it is a sector that is committed carbon footprint. We have made an estimate of what the event was up to the Paris COP21 since Copenhagen, and they have an overview of what the achievements have been in the sector, how many dwellings have been refurbished, what represents as a percentage of the overall stock. The obviously very key. So, and for us, very, very key is the average amount of money saved per household. You can see now just 724 euros saved per household per energy bill. So what's been invested by the sector is approximately 32 billion, and then you can see a breakdown of that. This is a sector which is continuously investing and working to find different solutions with affordability for both the user and the owner being key. Where does AdoRes fit in this puzzle? So what we can see throughout Europe is a very increased urbanization process. So I estimate that about 80% of Europeans will be living in cities by 2050. So density has to happen, increased density has to happen. So what will this density do if it's done properly? It can increase the answer to some housing needs, as outlined by Anarita, and it allows us to work more sustainably and efficiently, reducing transport needs. And that, if done properly, can improve living conditions. Of course, the question is how to densify. It's also very important to consider this regeneration. So many of our houses have been built in the post-war period. So most of the housing in Europe is actually aging, and we need an extensive regeneration process. But this proposal, like this one, ABRA community, can actually show how this regeneration process does not always mean demolition, although sometimes it may mean demolition. But if we do it properly, we can look at systems to uplift density, models, and upgrade the public realm. So that's why this the ideas coming from ABRA community, ABRA project, and the AdoRes are seen as a potential way to answer these questions. So a way to finance energy retrofit while maintaining affordability for residents and for owners. So what I try to do to just give you a little bit of a taste of the feedback we are getting from the ground. So I'm going to go through 3 examples with 3 different perspectives. From Sweden, I have some feedback from our member, which is the Association of Public Housing Providers, and they look at AdoRes and volumetric add-ons in the context of a more holistic approach to improving entire neighborhood. Then we'll look at the city of Paris. So we see now in Europe that many cities are taking the lead in a progressive approach to affordable housing, because they have to, because there's a severe lack of affordable housing. So there we will see where volumetric add-ons actually fit in the city strategy to provide more affordable housing. And then in Austria, we have a case study of an individual building where a deep renovation has taken place. So let's kick off with the Swedish example. So a very holistic approach here coming from SABO, the National Federation. So looking at a neighborhood, and they've just shown us a picture of which is the bad reputation that this neighborhood had. So it was classified as a no-go area with many gangs, insecure environment with prostitution, and a very bad reputation. And along with actors in the neighborhood, the housing company decided on an holistic approach to improve that neighborhood. So this is the holistic approach. It outlines a few of the measures that were taken. So obviously retrofitting works, renovation of public spaces, improvement lighting. This is very important for increasing sense of safety, reducing the sense of danger, collaboration with many police, looking at what they call jobs. So look at a way to engage the youth in the neighborhood in a positive way. And this is one of the examples which we can see. It's very impressive. So here we can see the housing before and after example. So these are houses which were built as part of the Miljon project, as it's known in Sweden, where they built 1 million houses very quickly in the 60s and 70s. Many of these houses are fallen into disrepair and are in urgent need of regeneration. And this is an example where they, through negotiation with the tenants, so these are rental housing units, they have added floors. So the rent in the upper new floors is higher than the rent charged in the rest of the building. And although there is also an increase in rent for those existing inhabitants, it is a variable one. And this is achieved, which is very much in the Swedish spirit of doing things, through negotiation with the residents in the building and in the neighbourhood. So that's an example, and we have another one there. So very similar, block of flats from the n.1 project, and the before and after pictures. So what our member there really stressed is that the negotiation process with the tenants was key for the success of the project, and the fact that it is part of an overall holistic approach to improving the neighbourhood. So a little bit down south from here we go to Paris, and we heard from Paris Habitat, which is one of the largest social housing providers within the city of Paris. So Paris is facing a real lack of affordable housing within its perimeters. And what we have been told, and this is very interesting for the ABRA community, because when we have this political will, we will really see that this type of start to really flourish. So one of the has actually been included as one of the tools for used by the municipality to densify. So that's along with the on the amount of smaller buildings which can be built and the maximum use of existing property. So they're leading on that, and what they stress, there are some successful examples there, but they also stress, as in Sweden, the importance of working with residents. So some of the examples have already been completed. So 5 tower blocks of 4 to 5 stories, so 750 flats, built also in the 60s. So they've added 2 stories to 4 of the towers, which resulted in an additional 72 new social housing units. And of course, significantly, in the spirit of the project in reducing the carbon footprint, gone from a 260 kilowatt hours per meter squared down to 80. And they've informed us that 3 similar projects. So, as I said, what they estimate is that of the success of the project is really dependent on the support of the people living in the building and around. So this deep permanent dialogue is considered as really one of the success factors, which Anna has mentioned a bit earlier on. And have to be paid, obviously, to the more holistic nature of the work, so better quality of life for tenants, but also in the surrounding neighbourhood. And as I said, clear and full support from the local authorities. So that is an interesting sign that we are getting. So because of the shortage of land, which is indeed it's an issue, it's a big obstacle to the provision of affordable housing, which is being faced by many cities around Europe. So this can be definitely proposed by us as one possible approach, one part of the puzzle. Then we looked at another examining through from Austria. So Austria is the country with one of the highest amounts of limited profit cooperative housing and public housing. So in the city of Vienna itself, there is about 70% and limited profit and so strong political support. But the example, so it's an example of very deep renovation of an older building, and again we have pictures of before and after. There was problems with the quality of life within the building, the size of the dwellings, lack of basic amenities, and also high maintenance costs. So there we can see the before and after, quite a significant improvement, as you can see there in the aesthetics. And it's a good example of a successful patient. It's also stressed by our partner there, GBV, based in Vienna, that because this was a central location, it also lends itself to the ARA approach. Because in cases where perhaps buildings are in less desirable locations, they're looking perhaps at an empty buildings, the ABRA approach might not work. But this is a desirable location and where there's a lack of affordable housing, so it works well. So this application also worked. So if we can finance this, so cost of the refurbishment through the add-on, it's a little bit more complex. So in theory, this can be done, but because of the regulatory environment and the cap on rents in this regulated sector, it is not possible in this case. However, the main objective is reached in that you have an addition to the supply of affordable housing, and you have an increase in the quality of life, reduction in the energy consumption. It's fit, so it's definitely one of the pieces in the puzzle to lead to a fair energy transition, a transition which involves all, where all can live energy efficient lives and higher quality lives in an affordable way, and with the collaboration with the community. It's into obviously the key messages going into the discussion going on at European level, so the need for evidence-based approach. So where this fits in the ABRA strategy is really the need for more evidence and more facts on where housing stock is like, so that we can really measure the potential of the ABRA approach and see to what extent it can be used. We fit into also one of our key messages, and that we really need to look at the neighbourhood level when we talk about building strategy. We need to look at effectiveness, and indeed this is one of at the heart of ABRA is looking at cost effectiveness and affordability, finding business models that do not mean radical increases in living costs, and looking for a way which allows cost to be paid back through savings and through added value. So integration of RES is key, and very important here. This is we've found through national meetings in our community. Skill question is very crucial here. So a real need to look whether the skills are available in the construction sector to successfully replicate the good examples that exist. What we need to put ABRA in the bigger picture of what's needed in a good renovation mix is this integration with energy efficiency and RES. And what is increasingly called for by the housing providers around Europe is the industrialization. So it was also mentioned by a little bit earlier. So the prefabrication of and the modular approach to the renovation process is something that is really being called for. Adequate financing, as mentioned again, key involvement of tenants, or in the case of private ownership and volume, involvement of occupants at all stages. What nice example which we're tracking at the moment is something called Transit Zero, which is taking the prefabricated approach. It is inbuilt in a new cell for the building. It has inbuilt PV and ventilation systems, but it is not yet including add-ons. But here I'm just going through very quickly the approach that we would like to see generalized with this prefabricated approach. Key here is that the renovation is taking place over a period of 10 days. So obviously these type of industrialized approach feeding into the research coming through from ABRA will be key if we really want to upscale the refurbishment in the residential sector. We are seeing from Germany this interest in what they're calling serielles bauen, so approaches to industrialized modular renovation, which can be done quickly, affordably, and at a high quality. So that gives you an overview of where we saw and a few examples of where volumetric additives are being applied and the perspective for the future. So happy to have any questions.
Thank you, Dorsha, for the overview. I'd like to open the floor then for some reactions, if there is any from the attendees. Think about it a little bit more. Okay, I will all that you can both chat your questions or just simply you can raise your hand and I will be happy to unmute you. Maybe a question then from my side. We're increasingly taking into account in our work in Abracadabra the social aspects that is relevant, of course, to all the systems and the different activities rolled out in a neighborhood to really change, as you were showing us, for example, the case study in Austria, to change not only the building themselves but the quality of life. In your experience, how does that element, the social element, impact on the interest of a local government to re-engage and to generate an area and to start through really retrofitting the buildings in certain neighborhoods? Is that like more or less important, equally important as the financial aspect and incentive?
The affordability question is really to the forefront when we have these discussions, because what residents are often worried about is higher costs after refurbishment, and we're seeing examples of that in some parts of Europe where after renovation rents are going up, and so you have a drop in the trust. So this question has to be at the forefront.
Yeah.
And then alongside that, so yes, the contact with the association and with residents, and I think you need really all three. So you need then the political will and the backup as well. The trust is the key factor here. If that trust isn't there, and then so if there's not trust in the quality, the results of the renovation, if there's not trust in the financial implications, if there's not trust that the authorities are behind that, then that key factor that will really determine whether or not it can be scaled up. That's what we have seen.
Yeah, thank you. That's really clear. I think this is something that Abracadabra should really dig a little bit more into. You were saying this idea that if you, of course, give more value to the building itself, there is also potentially a raising cost of rent and so on. So the balance there that we need to strike is actually quite sensitive. So as your intervention was really spot on this point, and we always need to keep that in mind when we are trying to find solutions that, of course, make our buildings better, but might also have some side effects that are not exactly wanted from our side. So thank you very much. One last opportunity to ask question to Sorcha. Okay, so write them down. We will have more time towards the end of our webinars to discuss this and to discuss other items on our agenda for the next hour. So don't forget your questions, just pen them down. And I would like to give, again, a big round of virtual applause to Sorcha, and moving on to our next speaker. So the next speaker we have, and I'm giving you the floor now, Edgars. Really instrumental in the development of our Abracadabra technical toolkit, and I will present us a little bit what this toolkit can do for us and can do for you and for your case studies. So Edgar, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you, Georgia, for so kind welcome, and thank you as well the previous speakers, Sorcha and Anna. Yes, my name is Edgars Augustins, and I represent energy service company Renesco from Latvia. Carry out comprehensive renovation of multifamily buildings as Renesco company under energy service contract. Today, I will present like quite important part of Abracadabra project, which is technical toolkit and its implementation. I'm sure that today here in the webinar we have experts who have experience with energy efficiency, project management, development and financing. And if I ask who else besides you better know how important it is to choose most suitable technological solutions to reach cost and energy effective results. And by all these complex things, usually you need tools, expensive softwares, and several hours to do the analysis, designing, preparation of work, or even though you are not sure the project will start or it will be finished. So, therefore, in Abracadabra project, we as the field experts and are developing high quality technical toolkit, which is meant to be for refurbishment and to evaluate different scenarios with AdoRes. I will. Our aim is very ambitious because we are designing a tool which is and will be useful for designers, residents, investors, ESCO companies, involved parties. The lie in the fact that each of them have different interests, different knowledge levels, different availability of funds and other aspects. One is that which will see meantime, I think it's strengthening the project toolkit is that we have so many case studies across the Europe, which they carry from north to the south, from the east to the west, with each specific need. Therefore, we are looking into the cooling needs, heating needs, and all other different aspects which relate to each case study. And then the tool will be easy understandable so that, for example, the resident without any knowledge can do scenario analysis for the multi-building building if they are interested in the Abracadabra approach, or even investor can do feasibility studies of potential projects. We search and find like the golden middle way of our provided tools. Technical toolkit structure. So at the beginning, so that we can start the analyze, we have to gather some data about building. So what we do require is the location of the building, so that we are aware of the climatic data, the is it in the city center or outside of the city. We need building geometric data, the size, the area, the condition area, technical details like heat source, what of heating system, the ventilation, is there included in the building as well. If it is possible, we tend to like it is for us that we gather the historical energy measured data so that so that we can see how the building before previously. Data collection, we do data analysis and start to look into the building, how it could it will perform after the renovation by highlighting potential AdoRes scenarios, providing technical solutions which chosen by project developers, for example. Like remind, building it's a complex and complicated system. It consists of a huge number of different subsystems. There are like components and elements to in each with each. So this is very important for us to have precise data as good, so that we can is more real to the real life to get the results realistic. And as a result, the potential area of increase the square of the add-ons, technical solutions, energy performance of the building before, after the renovation, as well for each of the scenarios, and basically the technical feasibility of the building. Already this our potential scenarios, what we're looking into, that each of the scenarios is unique, and for each of the case study they may vary, and sometimes there's only the one possibility, but that should be the right one, and help the building owners, the residents, to do relation with the door strategy. The analysis of the building technical toolkit includes as well the technical solutions, like catalog, where describe and have proposed some potential of different solutions, the connections for the building, for the basement insulation, external wall types, roofing types as well, describing the materials, their properties, and what materials and what these of them may be to reach the or provide the like suggested result. So as already Elena mentioned, that we are now looking into 3 technologies: steel panel construction, brick construction, and prefabricated concrete panels. And as well, by keeping in the technologies may choose between the countries. For example, in Latvia, as we have quite some amount of food resources, we may choose the timber panel construction for our studies. Find that when the developers or other parties, involved parties, do the rent projects, we have to always choose cost-effective solutions. This means we can't, for example, install 50 centimeters of mineral wool insulation layer without estimations and understanding that the most was only half of the thickness, and that's our lost money, and the of the thickness will not gain as much the heat gains or the savings of the losses of energy as you may assume. So it's also to take into account cost-effective solutions for the end measures. With energy technical tool, which is during the project to develop as open online platform, the user, by using my previously mentioned data, to get out the primary energy needs before and after renovation, heating and cooling needs for each of the case study, the electricity needs and the potential savings after the renovation, and as well to reach nearly zero energy building. Consider as well the renewable usage automation of the building. Their toolkit as well includes the estimations of potential gains from renewables if you install, for example, like solar collectors to provide domestic hot water or even for heating, as well the heat pumps to cover the code, and even though maybe at the cooling needs to cool down the building, and as well take care of the PV panels are assumed and estimated in building energy performance calculation. And those aspects which are included, like from technical point of view of the building, and which we are like covering and analyzing. I would like to mention with one quote which I like, because it points out that, as previously as already speakers mentioned, that without the earnings, invested money and payback time, there is also the gains of new comfortable environment for residents, and the aesthetic improvements and in the building, which added value as well for these renovated buildings. Yes, I'm happy to answer your questions as well.
Thank you much, Edgar. So I would like to open the floor for questions to the audience. Please, again, just chat them and I can read them out loud, or simply raise your hand and I'm happy to read out your question. In the meanwhile, the participants collect their thoughts. I have a question for you about the toolkit, actually. Who can use this toolkit? Is it available for free to everyone or public officers? And how do you think that, for example, a local government to take advantage of this tool can use the results and the lesson learned that can be produced by the toolkit in a nutshell?
Yeah, that's it. For sure, it is going to be for free, and our aim is to make it usable for those who are not experts, and maybe the experts can gain as well from the toolkit to understand the potential of Abracadabra approach, and so that it could be available like online platform where users have like primitive information about the building, so they input the data and then they see the potentials of the building, and so that, for example, we talk about this just simple deep renovation, and they see these benefits and as possibilities of payback time. I think it's a good opportunity to use and find those aspects. What comes for government and like local municipalities, I think right now it's the problem that most of those involved, like commissioners or ministers or deputies, they don't know these approaches, and they were. So it's just like the question of informing them and say, here is the like solution. Why don't you take this approach and use it in the local municipality?
Thanks. So I'm at the audience whether they have any other question. Otherwise, I think we can move on to our fourth and final presentation of the day. I want to thank you very much, Edgar, for your presentation, and then I will move on then to our next speaker. I will pass the ball to you, Dimitra. Voila. Next speaker, Dimitra Papadaki, will talk to us about the financial toolkit that the project has been developing. We can see your screen, Dimitra. Can you please confirm whether you can change the slides? I'm continue. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Perfect. Hear you.
Yes. Okay.
Great. Floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Dimitra Papadaki, and I am going to present you now the financial toolkit of the Abracadabra project under the National Capital University of Athens. So, as we saw, a financial process that some stakeholders could be engaged in this part of the in this Abracadabra project, especially for Greece, but also for other countries. The development of buildings requires the engagement of several stakeholders. Some of them, the landlord, the property manager, the project coordinators and developers, architects, design professionals, personnel, of course, financiers and investors, legal team, and some others. It depends on the framework. This financial toolkit, I think it is clear already, in the Abracadabra project, there were 3 toolkits that are developed: the regulatory, the technical toolkit, and financial toolkit. So the financial toolkit, the reason of the developer is so that the user can estimate the payback period of the investment. Period means that the period that is required for different energy efficient measures. And they can also estimate the new value of the building after the construction of a door. While starting with the tools, there are 3 scenarios that the user can. There are several scenarios that the user can choose. We've seen this several times already, so we can understand that the first on the left, the first image is the innovation. Then have the add-ons on the floor, then on a side, on a facade, or as an assistant building. The user should pick one of these scenarios from the start. I want that the toolkit will also be online, and all the calculations that I will show you now and all the steps that I will show you will be easier online. You can just press several buttons and fill some gaps so that you have these estimations even more easy than I will show you today. Can I do something for the slide? I'm not sure.
Sorry?
I think you see the slide upside down.
No, I see the horizontal. Someone else can please check with me. Michele, can you please confirm whether you see it also turned?
It's horizontal.
Horizontal. So it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure. Dimitra, should there be these problems with the following slide, I would recommend that you share your screen so that we can...
Yeah, it's up down from my side.
I don't know. For some people it is, for some others it's not. Sorry about that.
I will share my screen.
That's sorry for the inconvenience. I'm not sure why this is happening.
Because probably there are screenshots from the tool and maybe something happening.
Slightly different version of a plugin can make a lot of a difference, unfortunately. Okay, I can see your screen now. For that, I'm sorry.
So there are types that you can use in the toolkit: the neutral, the optimistic, and the pessimistic scenario. This will affect of the payback period. So in the middle column, the neutral scenario will be the baseline, and in baseline there won't be any changes. So the energy prices, the inflation rate of the country, the interest rate of loan, the construction costs, and the value of the new construction will remain same overall in the next years. In the optimistic scenario, we see a 10% increase above the baseline of the prices, a 20% decrease in the inflation rate, a 10% decrease of the interest rate of the loan, 5% of the construction cost, and 5% increase on the new value of the construction. And but on the opposite way, we see in the optimistic scenario. So decrease in the energy prices, increase in inflation rate, increase in the loan, the interest rate of the loan. Interest cost also increase and a decrease in the average value. In toolkit, that is an Excel sheet like the one we can see here. These are snapshots from the toolkit. I start with the first page that we can see on the bottom, and it is the current state of the building. In this case of the buildings, the user generally in the toolkit should fill in cells that are yellow. So this study of Latvia, and they are just indicate now, of course, they change a lot if we change countries and if we change the case study. But we just want to see now how things are calculated. Okay, then the user has filled that they use natural gas, and there is a 5% yearly evolution in the gas prices, also a 4% in the electricity prices. The costs of the gas, as we can see on the second cell. Maybe you can see my mouse. The costs are filled in below 5% here. It's 23,507 euros. And below the 4% of the evolution of the electricity, the yearly evolution in electricity, there is overall cost of electricity, which is 11,000 almost euros. They don't use LPG, they don't use fuel or any other source. They have estimated the annual energy cost, which we can see below, and in the scenarios they have taken into account that the years for the operation are 50. Here we can see only until year 4, but there are calculations until the last year of 50 years. With the annual energy costs and the accumulated energy costs that accumulate every year. The inflation rate is also at the next cell. The user can fill in the inflation rate of the country. If they don't know it, the tool can fill it in, as the toolkit has. Also of the building on the current state is calculated. The user will fill in the average value of the land, and here it is 2,200,000 euros, and the average value of the building is calculated, and of course the average value of the building adjusted to inflation is calculated. And then we have a total of value of the building in the current state, which is 5 million euros. So to estimate the overall investment, what they must put in the toolkit is the number of the square meters or units of the selected renovation categories and cost per square meter or per unit that are used. He or she should also have as input the percentage of the land used due to AdoRes and the cost per square meter of the construction. Also, rate of the country of the case that they will use. As I said, in the database they can find the inflation rate of the country, or else they can use the average EU inflation rate, which is roughly 1.8. And they can also put the replacement period in years, as we to estimate the initially the investment. Two categories: the thermal envelope and the installations. For the thermal envelope, changing on the facade, the measures that they take is external thermal insulation, internal thermal insulation, and so on. On the roofs, there are also some renovative measures, like the insulation of the attics of the roofs, internal ceiling insulation, as we can see, replacement of windows or the doors, floor insulation, basement ceiling insulation of renewable energy systems, changes in the HVAC, in the heating system, or in the heating distribution systems, in the ventilation systems, etc. Column, the user should fill in the square meters or the units. For the energy systems, for instance, they have put 1 unit, but for or the replacement of the windows, 100 windows, or they can fill in the meters that replace. To the next calculation cost per square meter or per unit, so that the user should fill in the cost of this installation, and then estimate the total, calculate the total installation costs, as we can see in the last column. And on lines, the user can pick the scenario. Will the door be on the top, on the side, or as an assistant building, etc. In this, we have put the door on the top. So see that the total investment for existing building is 364, almost 100,000 euros, and of the AdoRes, there be on this an increase of 413,000 euros. So the total investment using AdoRes and deep renovation would be 777,000 euros. 100,000. As we said, the user should fill in the replacement period in years. So we see the same table with the same characteristics, and now they will fill in how many years they will replace every unit they have used. Here they put 39 years, 35 years, 20 years, etc. Determine also the payback period and the new value of the building. The user must put for these cases energy savings in a percentage, and this and evidence of the impact of the renovation and the energy consumption. The expected energy savings will be obtained from the technical toolkit that on the case study. They should put the expected maintenance costs as a percentage of the renovation again. The energy costs that they can be found in the database of the toolkit. This per year, exclude taxes and other expenses. Again, if there are no real data, the toolkit can work with statistics for the energy consumption in every region or country. Financial information of the loan. That means when the loan will start, the duration of the loan, and the interest rate of the loan. And original value of the building, already did in the current state, and the average value per square meters of the new construction. Let's see how the toolkit works in this procedures. From the technical toolkit, the user already knows how much you will save with every scenario. So in a scenario, with the gas, there will be 60% save 40% in electricity, and there's no other energy source that was used. In the investment of the 700,000 euros that we said, if there are 40% public subsidy, then this means that the 300,000 euros will be from the subsidy, and leaves with a 466,000 euros that would be the investment. In the of the payback, we start with a very similar sheet. You have all now the 5% and the 4% yearly evolution in electricity, with the cost of gas, as we had in the 2 sheets back, both gas and electricity, but now also the expected savings because of the profits. And as we said, we have a 60% saving in gas, and this accounts to the third line, which is the expected energy savings. From energy savings, and then again to the expected savings in the electricity. Overall, the line that I have marked with the red color, the overall savings that are just to inflation and maintenance per year would be this line that is marked with red, and beneath this accumulated savings per year. Overall, the results of the toolkit is the outputs of the toolkit are the new value of the building, variation of the present value of the building, the present value of the savings, and the value with the new construction, the paid energy savings by taking into account only the cash flow income generated with the savings in energy bills, and the payback based in savings and earnings by taking into account the cash flow income generated with the savings in energy bills and the value of the new construction. And more specific now, others should fill in the detailed loan if they take a loan. So in case they have, I don't know if you can see the top line, they have a % interest rate. The period is 35. You can see it with the cell, the cells on the top, and 0. The new building. The original value of the building we have calculated at the beginning is 5 million. The renovation was 364,000, and aesthetic improvement of the new building will be a 10% of the investment of the renovation, so 36,000. The value of the building would then be 4.5 million euros. The net present value of the savings that get from the energy savings, which is 771,000. Of the financial costs for the loan, which are 131,000, and construction, because in this scenario we have chosen to have add-on on the floor, on the top floor, because we have a new construction already, and we need to account that new add-on also as the real estate worth of it. So the added value of the new construction, we know the square meters of the new construction would be 435. We know the average value of the land. So we have a new added value of our construction of 178,000 euros. The new building now, after the renovation, will be the factor 1 plus factor 2 plus 4. 3 million euros of the new of our building, with a investment of 4.43. So now that we do a deep renovation in our system, deep AdoRes in our system, and if only take into account the energy savings from this scenario, the pay period is 35 years. This is a big period, but it don't takes into account the savings that you have in the energy. With the other we say here AdoRes, when we take into account the new value of the building, initially we start with the standard renovation cost, which is 400,000, and traction, which is this. Then the increase of the real estate value, you can so this top floor that has been conducted with 2 years. This means start having we start our investment payback period less than 2 years. As we see here in the last cell, the payback period here would be years. The value based in savings and earnings from AdoRes would be 1 million euros per 1 million euros, and the investment will be 4.43. So it is important to understand that add-ons add increasingly they add a lot to the real estate value of the buildings, and they make a very fast payback period of the total investment. Thank you for your attention. I would like to answer to every question you may have.
Totally very clear. and also encouraging presentation, I would like to say, with showing us the great results that we can achieve through applying the AdoRes solutions. I would like to open the floor for question. I see a hand raised. Michela will unmute you at the moment. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Thank you for your presentation. It's very inspiring. I was wondering, when you're referring to the second part of the toolkit that makes the return of investment shorter, if you take also into consideration the earnings, would you suggest that it is, would you imply that it should be, the new, the volumetric addition should be sold or should be rented? What would you suggest, taking into consideration the scenario that you have drafted to us, would be the valuable suggestion?
Can you? So this area, they have calculated that they sell this property within 2 years, but it would depend on the case study. So if we're talking about hotel, then they have an increase of their rooms, so it'll gain even more income per year. So it would really depend. They could either rent it or sell it or have it as a hotel rooms. These are really based on every case studies in every country and what the initial purpose of the building would be. For instance, if it has been done on a building in very, very expensive area of a city, of course it would be very easy to sell and very fast, and the payback will be as fast as you can sell the new value of your, as you can sell the add-on of your construction. Clear what I explained?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
You're welcome.
One other thing.
Yes.
How can a commissioner or more than that, a local government enter the process within Abracadabra? Taking into account that I'm a local government officer, what am I supposed to do to be part of the Abracadabra dynamics and community?
If you want stakeholder of the Abracadabra, if I understood.
Yeah, or maybe I have some projects would love to be taken into consideration for the toolkits.
The toolkit one will be available shortly online, so everyone can use them. And also, we have done national meetings in the partner countries, as far as I know. And in this our national meeting, for instance, there were several stakeholders that we have informed them, and they have given us a big feedback on how to improve and develop the toolkits, all the toolkits used. This is a very this program is based a lot on stakeholders and what is their opinion and how we can develop better tools from the opinion. So this will also develop when the tool will be online.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Is there any other question from the audience? Question, you also saw that I launched a poll with few brief questions. I would encourage you all to feed in. They are very simple yes or no questions, and one final, number 5, that instead look for your important feedback on what we are doing. If you have any recommendation or any suggestion or any ideas on the different aspects that our project is looking into, we really value your ideas and your feedback, and we really look forward to see the results of such a poll. We have 10 minutes for that. I would also like to again ask if anyone has any question of the speaker. Really, should take advantage of the remaining minutes of our session. I see, so Nandita, I will unmute you. There you go.
It's a question. It's just a remark I would like to point out that many of these toolkit that we are going to develop and to run this stage of the project are also addressing the possibility of change in the regulation. So it's the famous legislative regulation that we should achieve. For example, the financial toolkit could be very helpful for public administration to understand which could be which kind of amount of admitted volume addition could fair for an investor, taking into account also all the counterbalancing measures at the social and urban and environmental level that were mentioned by Socia in our presentation. So we should try to work very much on this aspect of achieving the best financial, let's say, profit, the fair financial profit for the investor with social and environmental factors tools. So that's the importance of the financial toolkit with regards to the public administration.
Had a question or intervention or remark, any suggestions coming from the floor on what we're doing about that? I would like to take the floor just for a minute and maybe go over conclusions. Specifically, I would like to share with you a few upcoming opportunities that have already been mentioned by the different speakers through our session, but just to make sure you don't forget. You can, of course, join our ABRA community online. We have a specific area in our online platform within our website where different members of the ABRA community, different types of stakeholders, can really meet and discuss and enjoy the different resources that we've been producing and have access to the wealth of knowledge that the ABRA community is bringing together, has been bringing together for the past month and will continue to bring together for the next year and a half. We also invite you to follow us through our social media channels and to participate in the discussion. Especially, I would recommend everyone to keep an eye on our events and on our upcoming opportunities to meet. As was mentioned before, the Abracadabra project has 8 main target countries, and these include Norway, Italy, Spain, Greece, Latvia, Bulgaria, Romania, and the Netherlands. And we have recurring meetings, stakeholders meeting happening in the different countries around twice a year to talk about different aspects of renovation and how to make sure that we can speed up renovation across Europe through the Abracadabra approach. So we're meant to keep an eye on our website and its calendar, as well as on our social media, and to engage and participate in this great opportunity for exchange and for really making an impact on renovation in the future. I would also like to remind all of you of the great opportunity of pitching one of your case studies that you are maybe thinking, one building that you're maybe thinking about bringing through energy renovation. We're looking for 40 more case studies that we can welcome in our Abracadabra family. And the idea really that you have free access to all the analysis that our toolkits can carry out for you to better understand whether and to what extent the Abracadabra approach will be useful and relevant for your building. So don't miss this opportunity to really learn, share, and also to benefit from the great research that the ABRA community is carrying out. For you can see now the contact, and also you can, of course, visit our project website, where you can also find a template that explains exactly what sort of data will be needed from you in order to allow us to support you such an analysis. And then finally, some more upcoming opportunities. Very soon, beginning of October, on the 4th and 5th of October, as mentioned by Elena earlier on, we will have our 4th international workshop and a capacity building event, both of them focusing on the financing aspect of energy efficiency through building add-ons. And then one more opportunity, if you happen to be in Brussels for Open Days, we will have one workshop on speed of market uptake of building renovation in Europe. The event is co-hosted by the Building Efficiency Accelerator of the Sustainable Energy for All initiative of the United Nations. So we will have a larger audience. Also geographically speaking, we will go beyond Europe and try to see really how we can make this acceleration in renovation across our European Union and continent. I think that's it my side. Let me see whether the polling is going ahead. You still have 1 minute and 22 seconds to give your opinion. I'll ask for one final time whether there's any question or any remark or any contribution that you would like to share with us today on what was presented, or any curiosity you might have towards our project and our future activities. If not, maybe I would leave the floor then one more time to Rita just to say the final grace and maybe one final word of invitation to participate in our activities, and thank very, very much the excellent speakers that we had today. It's really interesting. You managed to bring to the ground really very interesting facts that can help us understand also this approach that is quite innovative. So thank you very much, and a big applause to all of you. Anna, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, I would like all the attendees to join the community of Abracadabra, because we really need the feedback of all the stakeholders, of all the different types of stakeholders, in order to refine, to amend, to develop, and making our tools the most bottom-up, let's say, tool, and having from you this kind of feedback could help us to refine them until the end of the project. I do believe that we have a long way still to refine these tools, so it's not something that we would like to show you as a passive audience. We would like to invite you to criticize also some aspects of the tools, some aspects of the strategy that we are proposing in order to develop in the best way possible. Do not believe that we have the truth in our hands, so I think that the truth is in the hands of all the different stakeholders, and so all the different aspects, the social, the environmental, and the financial aspects has to be taken into account to make this a win-win project for everybody, and thus achieving the market acceleration in the energy retrofit of existing buildings.
Great, encouraging words, also with this kind invitation to bring together our expertise and knowledge to see how to develop the best approach to renovation. I would like to thank all the participants for their time and for being with us today. We look forward to catching up with you in the future, and we encourage you to really watch this space, because a lot more is to come from Abracadabra in the upcoming months. We look forward to exchanging with you as soon as possible. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, participants. Thank you, speakers. I wish you all a lovely day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.